All right, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, and we're glad to have you guys with us again today. I'm joined by my two special guests. Got that back in again. Easton and Warren.
Yeah.
I'm David, and we are the Raised Hunting family. And so today, before I introduce the topic, I will let these guys do their due diligence that they normally do, which is Warren is going to talk about shout outs to people, I guess, and then Easton is going to read
Two stories.
two. I saw we got a new one with an elk.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Mr. Rupsick.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story. I read it.
And you guys are going to have to start asking which one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so funny enough, we talked about last week saying that we had two of the three Rupsick brothers. Well, little did we know, we have all three now.
Well, the other one
So
was
it's
on there.
a
He just wasn't
family
saying
affair,
nothing.
yeah.
We
Yes, he
actually
said-
had a little discrepancy this morning
On what?
about it. Warren had said, I figured it out. There it is, all three of them or something. They commented on one of the things. I said, what are you talking about? I just sent you it. And he goes, no. I said, yeah, look, they just sent us a picture with all three of them together.
So anyways, he said, you all asked and you get. My name is Sean. So now we have all of the Rupsick brothers. So they're kind of up there on the coolest family portion here.
Harrisons have got him.
Sean left a super cool message, but it's a little bit long for me to read right this second. I've read it. I thought I really enjoyed it. Jake DeLee says, best part of his week. Keep it up. Brandon Kirsch, 1745. You guys are my top 3 hunting channels on YouTube. Sorry, Easton, but I like Warren's Wacky Facts.
We all do.
Clearly, Brandon
job.
knows what he's talking about. He's going to try out some of the tactics this fall, and thank you guys for telling your experiences and knowledge. Jeremy Rupsick said he had something in here that was really, really funny. Oh, here it is. Thanks again for a great podcast. I do take back my compliment to Nick since he put up the wrong animals. Do better, would ya, Nick? And then he said, I did not know that prairie dogs were cannibals. That's a great,
very
wacky
many
fact.
people knew that they'll eat themselves.
Yeah.
The only reason we know that is Dad exposed it to us at a very young age. Let's go shoot prairie dogs with our 22s and watch them eat each other.
I think
That
I
one
feel
didn't
like,
come from Google. That one came from personal experience.
Yeah, I feel like
Just
all
witnessing
rodents,
it.
though, are, because like hamsters and gerbils and stuff like that will eat their own young.
Yeah, that's
kinda
crazy.
Even when they're alive?
I think they kill them.
Well, that's like our bunnies.
Like males killing them to try to...
I don't know.
Rosie killed all of her babies every time.
Rosie was a rabbit, by the way, not a human.
Yeah, she was.
New Age Conservative, he wrote in, said, what's up, guys? It's Taylor. Thanks for using my story, Easton. We used his last week.
Kopek?
It was cool hearing it on my way to work. Convict was 142 and 5/8. Definitely a hunt and deer to remember. Still looking to get my fiance and a buck this year. I love that deer's name. If you guys are listening on Apple, do us a favor and go leave a review, please. As you know, 5-star only. Spotify, same thing. YouTube, dudes, you guys have been jamming it up, so appreciate you guys.
That's funny. I forgot about the convict.
Yeah, that's a great name. Convict.
All right.
Convict.
I have 2 today. First lucky winner is Devin Hunker. He is right there in the middle with orange on. Yep, that one.
Beautiful deer.
Yes, sir. I started listening to the podcast in the spring of 2023 while landscaping. Listening to you guys talk strategies and talk about your tactics on getting close to big bucks has forever changed the way I hunt. I went 5 years without shooting a deer while never understanding wind, thermals, or how much I affected the woods while out messing around hoping to get a deer in range. After the advice and a wisdom from y'all, I got it done on the biggest buck I've ever shot, Ghost. He scored 124 inches and 3/8. I stayed out of the woods as much as possible and only hunting the perfect winds. Hunting over a scrape I made after the episode where you guys talk about the different glands and scents. And it took me until gun season here in Ohio to get him in range but I hunted the same as I would with my bow and shot him at 30 yards at 1:16 in the afternoon. I literally cried when I first got my hands on him. I can't thank anyone but you guys. Hope this makes it on the wall. With a question mark. Yes, it made it on the wall, Devin. That was a great story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Y'all got to give yourself some credit. I don't know if it'll make it on the board. It's going to make it on the board. You guys gave us something to talk about and interesting stories.
I like that deer's
Face?
face, yes.
I wonder if that's why they call him Ghost. It's all
He
white.
looks like a super old deer, yeah.
It looks
Big
like
old
he's got a long
blockhead,
head on him now.
grayed out face.
I think that he mentioned something that's pretty prevalent that he doesn't give it a lot of credit for, and that's shedding a tear. I think that happens more frequently than maybe hunters want to admit. I mean, there's a lot of hard work, and a lot of times it's not usually shedding a tear in remorse. I mean, I guess it's usually a shedding a tear in exuberation or finally, that's just cool. I think that's awesome that you don't mind sharing that with folks.
All right, then.
Well, I think especially nowadays you can get that a lot where with Instagram and Facebook and everything else, all you see is all these people that make it. It seems as though it works and happens all the time for everybody else. But for you, it just never happens.
Put the work in. It'll work out. The last quick one was Noah Hollowell. I know. I think you spelled your name right. I would imagine. So I'd just probably said it wrong. All the way on the left. Second one up.
Standing over top of the deer.
Yep.
This one here.
Mm-hmm. That is our boy, Noah Hollowell.
All right, Noah, let's hear it.
Hey guys, Noah here from Massachusetts, sending in my buck from last year. I just want to thank you guys for all the tips and really giving me the confidence to get back on this buck. I've been the spike master for a couple years, and I finally shot something with some antler this year. I shot him in late November. He came into a scrape that I found that day. Set up 20 yards off of it. I stayed out of this area all season, but decided to push in, and it paid off. Big risk, big reward. Good work, Noah. That is a stud of a buck, too.
I think for
definitely a lot bigger than a
Massachusetts,
spike.
it's a tank, right?
It's a good deer. Really nice deer.
I don't know Massachusetts
I think it
deer.
is.
Although I have heard that I'm pretty sure there's some places there that have big deer.
I think you were thinking of Delaware.
Maybe that's what
we were talking about, yeah.
Delaware definitely has. I don't know that we've gotten many photos from folks in Massachusetts.
Well, they only have like 10 acres of land to hunt.
I don't know. It's not a very big state.
I think you're thinking of Rhode Island now.
All of them are that small over there, but that one's even smaller.
All right. Is that it? Are we going to move on here and get to our topic?
Uh-huh.
All right. So today's topic, folks, is what we're doing right now, which is food plotting. We get lots of comments, lots of questions from folks, and so we're going to give you some kind of kindergarten explanations to try to keep it simple, because you can get very I guess there's both ends of the spectrum. You can start little, or you can go all the way to the full-on farming type food plot. So I don't know where you guys want to start, but what do you want to start with? Kind of what we're doing this year, or what we've done in the past, or?
Yeah, I think for generally speaking, we've always done food plots, and we've always done small fields. Like the biggest one we had was like 2 acres.
2.5 acres, yeah.
2.5 acres, something like that. And we've always done clover, alfalfa, brassica mixes, or sorghum. We've done all kinds of different things. But we've never done ag, like corn or beans, which is what we have all around Iowa. And depending on how this year goes with our new theories.
We've had it to hunt. We've never planted it
ourselves. Right.
I'm just making sure people knew that, like, we've had cornfields and bean fields that we could hunt. We just...
Oh, yeah, I was lost. I didn't know what you meant there. I am curious to see how our strategy going this year helps or hurts, because I think if it goes the way I think it will, my theory on food plots being a gimmick will be validated.
I totally disagree with you. Food plots are not a gimmick.
I don't think they're a gimmick either. I think the use that we are trying to apply to some of them is going to be more beneficial with something like corn or beans than it would be necessarily just a food plot.
The reason I say I think it's a gimmick, though, is not because of what it does. Yeah, it grows. Yeah, it does this, does that, whatever. I think there is a crap pile of misinformation put behind food plots that it's going to bring all these deer here. It's going to keep deer here. They're going to hang out. They're going to move in. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And I do not believe that, even relatively, besides when you break into larger fields or certain areas where they don't have any food anywhere else, that is their only option. Because your typical, what would you say your average food plot size is?
Ours or
anybody's?
That's hard to say. I would say on average, if I had to throw a number out there, an acre or less.
I would agree. My head was at an acre or less. And in my opinion, an acre ain't keeping a herd of deer around. I don't care what it is. Nor do I think that it may help bring them to a certain area during the season, which is, I think, most people's goal without realizing it. But I think if you're trying to, what I'm trying to do this year is I want to give deer a reason to stay versus just stopping in for the week or here for a day or two and then they're gone. I want to be able to have some deer that are actually residents there more so than we've had in the past. And the reason I think that we're missing that is because we've had ag fields leave that have been right next to some of our land and stuff, and we've seen our numbers drop. So I think that if we could get enough back in, and that's all while having food plots and everything too. We could never compete with the size of the ag fields that were next to us that are now gone. We can't get that amount of deer back.
Okay. I think what you're saying is...
Well, let's just dive back real quick into our archives. Is there a time that you can remember that one of our podcasts was like... One of our podcasts, holy shit. This is your fault for waiting so long in the day.
Food
My brain's
plots?
over. One of our food plots was just fire. That food plot was just loaded all the time.
I can think of one.
Okay, go ahead.
The 80.
When?
Used to, when the 2 or 3 year span there where Mitch killed that big deer, Dad killed splits, the big 8,
you
those
guys,
3-4 years.
You guys got busted by 25 deer in the food plot when we had to stand in the wrong location because we were still learning. And
that's exactly what I was thinking of. That when we were trying to kill you that real wide deer. Remember, probably like 150 some inch deer. Dad hated him because he had no eye guards, but he was a good deer. Like he was probably 150 some inch deer, and he was like 20 some inches wide. And we had him. Remember when we had to stand on
really
the corner?
old.
I don't know. We said that he was old.
Yeah.
Looking back, he was probably 3.
Yeah.
But we had him on the corner there, and we had sorghum, I think, in there too.
Yep.
And
the
that
sorghum
was when
was
we
too
had
tall.
like the 20. Yeah, bust us.
Yep.
Yeah. So why? So was that always brassicas that we'd had planted there?
partly.
And then he would mix in some sorghum and stuff.
But the issue was that back then we got the right rain. Our food plots were on, because I would tell you that at the house, the far north field that we plant down there, that one's the same. I've had 25, 30 deer in that, and it's acre and a half.
You've argued that statement.
I've argued. What do you mean I've argued that?
You've said that it is not the rain, it's the seed. Because you've had other seeds work flawlessly on no rain, hardly at all.
No, I mean, when you get as little rain as we've had in the last 3 years, nothing's going to grow. I mean, I don't care. There's no moisture.
All right. That's just what you've told us.
We've been when it turns off like it's turned off the last 3 years, there's nothing you can do. I don't care what you plant, it ain't growing because the moisture level is just not there. And we've had stunted growth because we've gotten rain early. We've had stuff where I had to go back and replant because we didn't get rain and it just laid there and technically you can have time, just so that people understand, there is a seed can lay dormant for, if there's no rain, nothing will happen to it. It's fine. The problem is we would get 1/10 of an inch of rain or 1/4 of an inch of rain, just enough to cause it to germinate and then nothing to continue the growth of that seed.
How much rain do you think we were getting back then?
We were getting like 1/2 inch to an inch a week, which was probably, I mean, we might have been getting more, but if you remember correctly, I can tell you this.
Do you remember any of those years that would have been?
2012
through 16.
I was going to say 13 through 16. And here's what I can tell you. Think about this. When we would sneak into the well stand, you had to have boots on. you were walking through water in the creek, and you had to discuss which way you were going to go to get around it. The last 3 years, that creek has been 100% dry by the time we get to hunting season. You can walk anywhere you want to go, and there's not a drop of water.
Okay. Well, you guys talk for a second. I'm going to find some data.
So
that would be the only one that I would. Either our deer are gone or something has changed, because we haven't changed anything. We've still planted stuff. We've still had good growth, and the deer aren't there they normally
you're
are.
talking about in the last 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had good growth, though. That's the thing. We
had a pretty good food plot this year, and there wasn't anything there. It was a very good food plot this year.
Are you talking about at the 80?
Yes.
It was okay. It still wasn't fantastic. I'm telling you, it was 50% of what it has been. When Mitch shot the big deer, you couldn't walk through. That was knee high. Nebraska's were.
I don't know how to discuss this when you're saying opposite things of what you've said in the past.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm just telling
so
you that the rain is. My opinion is the rain has been a big issue, and then the other one is.
Well, let's just answer this, okay? So let's just answer this. So we're going to start here. This is May 2012. Each month, I'm giving you the average or how much precipitation was received in our county in that month. Okay.
Okay.
May 2012, 2.27 inches. June, 2.69 inches. July, 0.77 inches. August, 2.61. Okay, let's go to 2013.
So 2.61 in August.
Except for July.
Right.
2013, May, 6.95 inches.
Wow.
3.67 in June, 1.3 in July, 0.69 in August, 3.46 in September. Okay, let's go to 14. May, 3.82 inches. June, 7.93 inches. July, 2 inches. August, 8.91 inches. February, 2015, June, I started in May, 5.96, June, 6.38, July, 8.2, August, 5. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to the last.
That's a lot.
It's a crap ton.
3
You're
years.
saying we haven't had any rain.
Hold on.
Those years
let's
we
look.
did.
Okay, let's look at.
We had more.
Hold on, you girls. 2020, May 2020, 4.25 inches. June, 3.83. July, 2.8. August, 1.2. So actually, July of 2020 we had more rain
than 2012
than any
July.
Other month.
Go to 21.
Or any other year prior.
What was that, 2020 or 2022?
That was
2020. May 2021, 3.98 inches. June 2021, 3.23 inches. July, 5.45 inches. August, 2.44 inches. Okay. May 2022, 3.8 inches. June 2022, 3 inches. July, 1.5. August, 2.77. And then 2023, May 2023, 2.21 inches. June, 3.37 inches. July, 2.54 inches. And then August, 3.9 inches.
You are right.
I don't believe that. I don't know where you're getting that number from, because that doesn't sound right.
And no, you're right in what you've said in years. The past 4 or 5 years you've said it. You hit the nail on the head.
Well, this would
what
suggest
I'm
if we
saying-
just look at strictly data, okay, flat data, 3 things. One thing that the 3 of us can agree upon, I cannot speak today, so I'm sorry, everybody out there, is from 2012 to 2015 that our food plots were much more voluptuous and came in better with nowhere near as many weeds. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
The last 3 to 4 years, our food plots have come in, and they've come in decent, but they've also the one thing I would say that comes just right to the top of my head is way more weeds.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
ridiculous.
why, if that's just us not knowing what we're doing, or what we're planting isn't choking it out, or what.
We
But
don't prep enough. That's
this
one thing.
information would also suggest that the rainfall itself, good Lord, dog, is not that much different That it's actually somewhat similar.
My point is this. You can have rain in July, and you can have rain in August, and you can have rain in June. When you get it, as opposed to compared to when, like, meaning if you get 5 inches of rain, you could get all that in 2 days. And if you got that where you couldn't plant, you see what I'm saying? Like, meaning, and I had that happen where it would actually come before I was ready to plant, get all the rain, then go to plant. Then there'd be a 30, 40-day window there with no rain. The data is going to show that there was rain, but there wasn't any when you put the stuff in.
It would be extremely difficult for you to not get anything to grow if there's that much moisture in the ground, whether it came in 2 days or not.
And I can tell you, we've had that situation where there's been enough moisture in the ground to actually germinate without rain. Problem is didn't keep it up, didn't keep it growing.
There is a solution within this. I'm going to put it out there.
Okay.
So they can cut it out if they'd like to or not. I'm purposely not trying to put names in this, but I will. The thing that David has said in the past 15 years, not 15 because we haven't been here that long, but like 6 years, was that there is a massive difference in what we are putting in our field. And what that is the seed we are putting in the field. Because we have used 2 major companies in the past 10 years, and one in which does incredible almost no matter what we did to it, and our food plots looked gorgeous. And going off of data, we had less rain at those times versus the one we've used recently we have struggles with all the time. Whether we are having the rain or not, that we are having tons of weeds. It doesn't grow quick. It doesn't choke anything out. You're dealing with having all kinds of crap with it. There tells me that we've had a pretty continuous rainfall in the past 10 years. Nothing incredibly terrible, yet we've had different growth. So either we've completely ruined our soil, which we've tested it, you have, and we're still good on our soil, and we still even add things to the soil in order to make that pH better. And number 2 is we've changed what we're putting in it, and that is the seed. I have watched you struggle in the past few years, not you physically, but you putting stuff in the ground and not getting it to grow properly, which makes 0 sense because in the past 5 years or so, or 4, whatever it is, you and then me have spent the time to go spread the crap that we need to spread versus just planting like we used to. So we've actually taken more time to put more steps in to make sure a healthy soil and everything, getting it planted right and getting it planted correctly, the right depths and everything, and have less results than what we've had in the past.
Agreed.
Why do you think the weeds?
That could be because of the water, and they don't have a strong enough seed to choke it out.
You're saying that the food plot's not coming in strong enough to choke out the weeds?
Or quick enough, or there's enough rain in the rain coming that the weeds are shooting up
weeds
before
grow
you ever.
Typically, like a lot of the weeds that we have here, and we have foxtail, and we have one of the Canadian thistle, and all that needs very little moisture. So what happens is when you have a seed that needs moisture and one that doesn't, the one that doesn't is going to start growing.
And if the weeds start growing before your stuff germinates and starts growing, that stuff is never going to choke it out.
Velvet leaf is another horrible. Velvet leaf is probably number 1 on our ground. I mean, as far as if you get no rain, it will grow like crazy. I don't know what it is. It needs no moisture.
Well, it's a shady weed, isn't
Babo,
it?
I'm doing a podcast, okay? You're going to have to call Famous Dave's. I'll pay for it later. Love you, bye.
What was that?
Alyssa's called me 3 times because she's trying to buy food for the wedding. And I told her to do it earlier, and she hung up on me because I have a million things to do. And so she keeps calling me over and over and over, and we're trying to do a podcast. And I already told her, pick out your chicken, pick out the other meat, tell me the 2 sides, and then we'll buy it.
Holy cow.
You guys are now a part of our wedding planning.
Welcome to the podcast. God. Wedding crashers.
Well, if she hadn't called me now she texted me. Let's see what she has to say.
Yeah, let's everybody's invested now.
Oh, God. Now she's trying to get me in dance lessons.
I thought you were already in dance lessons.
Oh, God.
Warren's already in dance lessons, just so everybody knows. But I think every dude goes through that going to a wedding, right?
Sure.
You didn't do it?
No.
Oh.
We didn't get married. We didn't have a big fancy wedding until 10 years later.
Okay.
All right. Let's get back to our podcast topic of food plots. So it truly is though hard to compare one to the other without having everything in a perfect world, meaning you get the moisture at the, because if you, man, I can tell you there have been times when we planted and it seems like it was years ago, put it in the ground and the next day you didn't get a 2-inch downpour. You got a 1/2 inch of rain, and then 2 days later another 1/2 inch of rain, and it came just perfectly, and you could literally go over to the food plots and watch them start to grow. And then you've had other times it's raining, I'm waiting for a spell here. Okay, it's time to plant. Go plant it. Come on, I need rain. 90% chance rain, it passes us. 90% chance rain, it passes us. And so and you could have 2 different types of seed, even though they're the same, 2 different companies is what I'm saying, or 5 different companies. And unless you could put it all into like a, something where you could water it exactly the same amount of sunlight, everything the same, it's hard to compare one to the other.
No, it's not. That's how they test all their crops.
Oh, I know.
But you can put that in the ground, and you just took out every variable. If you plant them all in the same spot, either one's going to grow and one's not, or one's going to grow better and one's not, and because it's all getting the exact same rain or no rain and everything else.
The thing I would be one, I'm remembering all the times that we'd plant all our food plots and we'd go out to do the Raise a Full Draw Youth Camp Montana. And for like the first 2 years when we didn't know what we were doing, we'd come back and we'd be so excited. We'd be looking at the food plot right in the driveway. And we're like, yeah, it's coming in great.
It's all weed.
All velvet leaf.
All velvet leaf. grew a 1/2 acre of velvet leaf perfectly.
He was even in the rows.
Yeah.
I was like, it's beans.
Oh, my.
Like, that's like, how did we get beans in here?
No, I planted beans. That was the thing.
That was, so that's why we were
beans,
convinced.
and I thought for sure.
That's
I got
freaking
soybeans,
hilarious.
but my soybeans didn't look like any of the farmers' soybeans. I was like, what the hell? And so finally I called someone. They didn't know. They're like, you have to take a picture. Well, in the meantime, we put it on social media, and I had like 10 guys answer and say, I don't see a bean in that thing. It looks like nothing but velvet leaf. And so sure enough, that's what it was.
See, we're learning too. That was 2 years ago, but we've come a long way since growing velvet leaf.
Well, let's just go. So how do they, for corn and beans, how do they not have any issues with the rain?
Oh, the thing about corn and beans that's different from every other type of food plot. When you plant brassicas, when you plant clover, when you plant any of the stuff that comes specifically for white-tailed deer or turkeys, or it's not a general ag product. There's one humongous difference, and that is they don't make one that is Roundup ready. There's not one on the market.
Yeah, but what about the lack of water? Why are the corn and beans able to grow? Which the only thing I'll say, too, is I hear Alyssa always puts on the stupid news in the morning, which if you're a news person like you work for the news, I hate you. You guys are so negative, and you really need to start sharing more positive things. Anyways, besides the point.
Okay, go back to your corn and beans.
They keep saying that we've been in a drought for year after year after year after year. So my question would be, one, the corn is always still 10 feet tall. The whole knee-high by 4th of July thing is totally obsolete now. But plus, I've always wondered if they are so low on water, why wouldn't your farmers start irrigating like they do out west in Montana to be able to water those fields? And I would assume it's because there's no need. They still are able to grow the corn and the beans. So what is it? What is the difference? Is it just the timing that they're planting those? What is it that's so different about the corn and the beans?
There's multiple things. And I think one of them is what you just talked about. One is we've had no issues getting the rain in the spring.
Right.
I mean, you read off 5 inches, 8 inches, May and June.
May and June are always pretty wet, yeah.
Yep. And so that gets those plants taken off and like you said, it's not even, we ain't knee high by 4th of July anymore. We're more like
5 feet.
Head and shoulders high. And so once it gets that, and I think they have genetically modified these plants. I know they have. I just don't know to what degree. I'm not a I didn't graduate from ag school, or I'm not an agronomist. So my point is, though, they have. I know they. I go back to my uncle's cotton fields, and I mean, he had pictures there of them picking cotton when it was only 2 foot tall. When I moved there, it was 6 foot tall, and it was in 3 tiers, and that was the whole goal. Was that they were getting, if you could, and same with, I think that you're going to see that with corn or beans. They get more beans on the stalk and more corn on more. Can they get more cobs?
Yeah, more money per acre.
Absolutely. And so they're genetically working on this. The other big, huge thing is they have no competition anymore with a weed because they can come back and spray that at any time, from what I understand. Now, I could be wrong. It could be that you have to hit it at a certain time, but that stuff is Roundup ready. It is ready to take it's a 100% clean field.
It's a good thing I'm not agronomist.
I definitely need to read about this, but I think you're wrong on that. Are you not?
On which part?
The Roundup Ready is mainly for once you put the seed in the ground, that you can go back and spray it within a certain amount of time. But then after it's starting to grow, they have to use a different chemical, I think, don't they?
They may have to, but my point is they can spray for weeds.
Yeah, after
they've planted, which we can't. And because if you could
kill everything.
Yeah, it kills every. I mean, that's the problem with what they're spraying to kill is. We're growing a broadleaf product most of the time, and that's what it's designed to kill.
And this was supposed to be for later, and I wasn't even going to use this because it'll probably go against the record I don't have. But I have a wacky fact that directly pertains to this, and I would say it probably answers your question. Yeah, see? You're biased.
I'm grabbing them both.
I don't know if this is actually legit. I know part of it is legit, but I would say part of the reason why they can grow things as well as they can is because beans are actually found naturally throughout the world. You can find like soybeans in like China and those places.
And
corn is not a natural product anywhere in the entire world. It was completely made up by humans. Corn has never grown naturally, never been native anywhere, nothing.
Really?
Yes. So
didn't know that.
Holy crap.
I
never would have guessed that.
Some people are not dictators. Unlike yourself.
Emphasize the first 3 letters. Anyways.
If I was an agronomist, bro, especially now that I know that corn is 100% man-made, I would make my corn stalk where right at the very top is one corn cob. Then on the side there'd be 2 little corn cobs, and then about a third way down there'd be one other corn cob.
You're an idiot.
This farmer would be like, what the hell frick is in my field?
Oh my goodness. Just so nobody comes at me in the comments saying that I am incorrect, the only part that comes naturally is the idea came from a plant that was from something else. But
so how did they know what they wanted? How did they know what corn was going to be?
I have no idea. They can date it back to like 7,000 years ago.
Do you know,
the first people?
So like the first corn was technically called maize.
First corn was technically called maize. I'm letting people hear.
Yeah. So it was maize, and then the like Aztecs, Mayans, the Incas, down in South America where it was originally from, they all started kind of modifying it to fit their landscape for farming.
So then old Indians modified it.
That doesn't make sense though. That doesn't answer how did they know what they were trying to get? We are in a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know that this is going to really pertain to
It is
food
weird
plots.
though how they is that
Where
the
did they
only
come up
is
with
that
that
the
idea?
only one that's done that?
I was
Like
just
rice
looking that
is
up
rice
literally yesterday.
Naturally made?
You can find rice in natural fields.
Okay, so corn's the only one that we've just
Well,
manufactured?
I don't know.
Out of the ones from here, I don't know. I was just looking at corn because I was like, wait, man, I've never seen wild corn.
Okay.
All right.
Is that
I
a
think
thing?
what
But
food
my
plot
point was saying that would they could genetically modify or engineer it to be able to go in the ground. Because the other thing too is you have to plant it the way it needs to be planted. They made it so that it can't just grow. You can't just go toss seed out there and hope it grows. You have to do it properly. So I would say that they probably have the control to be able to make sure it can grow even when it's not getting nearly the rain it probably needs.
I think what we need to focus more on is how is this going to affect the guys that are listening to this that are hunting?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, so let's go back to the original statement real quick that you made. Our food plot's a gimmick. So you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't agree with that. I don't think that food plots are a gimmick. I think that you need to decide what the use is for the
What
food
you're trying
plots.
to get out of it.
I think if you have no food around you for a half mile, quarter mile radius or more, and you think you're going to be able to plant a half an acre food plot, and that's going to hold deer there for you throughout the year, so that you're going to be able to plant brassicas and that they're going to stay there, and that you're going to be able to find sheds because these deer are able to live off of that food plot, I think that you're going to be utterly disappointed. I think that if you have somewhere now, if you have that same instance and you have 3-4 acres of beans or corn or some larger food source, and then you put in a half acre food plot near a bedding area or something like that, I think that food plot could help you kill that deer, because it gives him a purpose. It gives him somewhere that's already near his bedding area that he's close to, that he's willing to go during daylight, and may give you another opportunity. Shane has probably the best example of that I've seen. He's put a food plot in his timber that's probably 1 acre to 2 acres big or so, and he sat there and showed me. He gets really excited about his deer sometimes, as you guys know, and so he sent me, I didn't say anything because he was just blowing me up, but he sent me like 40 of his flipping deer the one day. And I asked him, I was like, what, where is that one camera? Because like 25 of them were all daylight pictures in one food plot. And it's a food plot that he strategically put next to their bedding area, not in it, next to it, in the timber. That's like 1.5 acres, 2 acres. And he says they're in there all the time. Like that is one place where you can walk in there and you can have bucks in there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because they are in the timber. They're not going out into the field. They're not going out in the food source. They feel comfortable there. So that's an instance where I think that a food plot could be a major benefit. For what we're talking about, we're trying to hold some more deer and get some more deer to be staying on the property all the time, especially through the later months of the year, late season. And I think that we just haven't had enough food in order to be able to do that.
Because if we go back to, like I said, 14, 15, we were planting at the 80, well, that was a 2.5 acre to 3 acre food plot. And it had enough food that we kept deer there in the winter. We had deer there that stayed there. We also had deer that came in and stayed in archery months, October, November. They were there and they stayed there. I mean, Mitch killed that deer because of that food plot. 100%. You know, that has been I don't know if that was the last year. I feel like it was that we had it come in that well. You know, that it came in where it was, because there was one year when I planted the big tall stuff to block everything, you know, like the
sorghum.
Yeah, the sorghum. And
that
year
was the Egyptian wheat.
Yep. And yes, that was the Egyptian wheat. And so then, I planted 2 different things. I think one was a sorghum, one was, but both of them got 12 to 15 feet tall. They're not necessarily a food. They're more of a barrier so that we could sneak into the field. My point is I messed up on the Furminator when I was planting, and I had some of it, if you remember, out in the field. There was like spots of it, and it grew up tall. And so it was kind of cool because the deer could come in and they were feeding in the food plot, and they felt really comfortable because there was some cover out where they were, and it wasn't enough, like, stopped you from hunting it. Matter of fact, I can't remember if it was one of you guys that when we snuck in there that day and that doe was, when we snuck in there one day into the blind, and there was a deer feeding 20 yards from the blind, and never knew that we got in.
That's I was telling you about the whole thing, that the guy I saw doing a seminar about your food plots, keeping your deer there for a while. That makes 100% sense, because you, instead of keeping it where it's just a perfectly clean food plot, you put things like that, barriers throughout the food plot in different places, so that they have to come through it, or they can feel safe in it and they'll hang out in it longer. On paper, I was like, yeah, it makes total sense, but I would like to try it and I would like to see how it goes. And that's a perfect example of it working properly.
Yep. We unintentionally did it that year. And that was after. That was after the food plot that was so good when I killed the Big 8.
Yep.
Because if you remember the Big 8, when I killed him, I had him in the food plot the year before, and then the next year was when he came back. So, like I said, there was 3 or 4 years there where the food plots were phenomenal. I felt like it was primarily the moisture, could have possibly been the seed. But I don't. I too many variables to say 100%.
I think to get back to how we could explain what we're doing this year too. number one, I think there's multiple things that it could be as to why we're having a big difference. At the 80, the deer numbers, I don't know. I don't know why they're down as far as the amount of bucks or whatever that we're getting over there, or even sheds that we're not finding. Even they don't hang out there. There's no food there, but it's not like anything around it has changed, at least that I know of.
Hunting pressure.
More pressure?
For sure.
I was more so thinking like fields and stuff. Nothing's really changed as far as ag goes. But if you go to your place where your house is, that has all changed.
Considerably.
Massively. And we've seen direct correlation to just the amount of deer that aren't hanging out there.
But now let's clarify that for folks so that they understand. When we're talking about a massive change, we're talking about probably a 50-acre field between two fields that was agriculture that's no more agriculture.
Yeah,
it's
but
CRP.
Not even that, though. It's CRP that is awful.
Correct.
It's not like it is even
I would also
good
say,
stuff.
though, too, that I don't think that's really affected the hunting all that much during October, November, maybe early December. I think it's affected it some, but I think a lot of those deer are still there. They're not leaving yet because they need food that bad.
I don't know.
They're
I
still
think
eating acorns.
Dad's
and
had a heck of a... he used to be able to hunt that stuff left and right. Not that
Well, I
he should have been, but he would hunt it hard because there was multiple different bucks and there was tons and tons of different deer running through there and everything, and now you could go see like half the amount of deer. Now, that could be a lot of different things, but anyways, the reason I'm bringing that up is because we've all discussed that. There are multiple different things, but we're totally changing our strategy this year, and we are going mainly ag and biggest fields we can get. So, like one spot, we've never done it before. I don't think we've actually ever planted it right at the bottom of the hill. Or at least we haven't. I think they did at some point in time.
Yeah, before we bought it, it was corn one year.
Corn, I thought, yeah. There's a 5-acre field that we're putting in beans, and then there's 2 little fields that are kind of strategic, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be very beneficial. Right above it, is another acre each, and we're going to put beans in that as well. So that way we can kind of control. Number one, that's a big food source. Number 2, it'll stay there. And number 3, we can leave it there for certain parts of it standing if we want for late season. And then like the 80 that you guys keep hearing us refer to, that's another 2-acre piece that we're going to do corn in that. So we can we'll grow the corn. We don't need to harvest it. So we'll go in and knock down however much we need to knock down so we can shoot in it. Or our blind is right in the middle of that field too. So you need to be able to see. Point being, we're completely changing stuff.
No, that's something that's notable that we should mention that has changed. I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years now, something like that, where now you can alter your cornfield, meaning you can leave corn and you can do something to it, knock it down or whatever, and that's legal. It didn't used to be legal. Used to you could leave it, but you couldn't touch it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yep. Good thing you just told me that, because I was sitting there thinking, I don't care to knock it all down or anything. I just care to be able to shoot. I want to be able to shoot through the field.
But used to you couldn't.
That's why there's a lot of these guys that are mowing it now.
Oh, so it spreads the corn. I don't know how I feel about that. You're going to watch me freaking go out there with a bush hog.
Similar to a
ready to go.
to a corn pile. Well, so then let's try to just speak real quick to the. So if the average guy has a food plot that's an acre, that means it's probably most of them are probably that's their only spot, or they only have a few different places that they can hunt. They're not the guy that has the tractor and
doing it with a UTV
yes,
or ATV
and tilling it up and able to do 10 acres here and 10 acres there and 5 acres here, and then has an excavator that they're clearing out the timber and blah, 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 blah. So to those guys, what would we tell them to be planting, or how they should be trying to utilize the food plot, or where they put it, or what they do with it to maximize their potential of it helping them?
Well, first off, I think that you would have to, the one that I'll think of is go back several years when you almost killed the deer on the power line.
Yeah.
Okay, that one was strategically put. There was corn and beans within shouting distance. We didn't put that in. We were hunting there, and other people had permission. They put it in.
We were hunting it with them. We didn't. We're sitting over their food plot.
No, I mean we all had permission, but at the time we didn't have any equipment or know any. As far as I knew, we couldn't plant anything there. But they got permission from the landowner and they planted it, and it was okay that we were able to hunt it as well as them.
Yep.
And so my point is, the only reason they put that in there was to attract deer during hunting season. There was no like, I'm going to get some long-term effect out of this where it's going to help 50 deer or 100 deer stay here and they're going to be able to potentially get bigger and healthier throughout the winter. That wasn't the intent. It was simply a food plot put in there to see if you could bring deer closer to your stand or closer to your blind.
So that one was in a place where those deer were kind of already traveling on their own.
Correct.
And
now
then
you
that was just try to hold them there for a minute,
Congregate
help you, yeah, help them find a doe or slow them down, get them to feed around for a minute, and hopefully maximize your ability to get a shot. Okay, so
and I think that is probably 90% of the reason that people put in food plots.
I don't know.
I
There's
don't
a lot
think
of people
so.
that don't have any food near them either, I think.
I also think a lot of them think that what you're saying, that they're going to be able to put in a food plot that's a half acre, and all of a sudden every deer on the property is going to come and hit it. That it's going to be full every night.
No,
I think I know what
I'm
you're
not saying
with-
that it will. What I'm saying is I'm saying probably the number one reason why a food plot is built is to bring deer where they can be shot.
You're saying,
Period. Whether it's a quarter acre,
Put 'em
half
where you
acre,
want
or
'em.
yeah, put them where you want them during the hunting season.
right, and is what I'm telling you is I think if most guys, if the way that they look at it, if they have 20 acres of ground that they can hunt on, I think that, and I could be 100% wrong on this, but I just, from the information I see, I think that they believe that they can put that food plot, a half an acre, 3/4 of an acre, anywhere on that 20 acres, and that all of a sudden it's
The
going to
deer will
bring
go
all
there.
the deer there to that food plot. And I would say from our experience, that is not the case.
No.
Now, if it was maybe 3 or 4 acres, that
Could change.
could possibly
depending on
do
what you
that.
put in it, too.
Yeah.
I have the perfect example of this, what I attempted to do last year until cows absolutely ruined it.
Which you should know that was going to happen, but
I did, but I had hope. So
Okay.
my situation last year is very similar to what you're talking about. I had a place that I could hunt. I have great bedding areas, real thick and everything. But I guess there's food around it as well, but I had no way to figure out which way these deer are coming out of the bedding area. There was always a crapshoot. It was like, if I have the right wind, I'll sit here and hopefully they come down this way or come back in this way or whatever. But I had no way to get them consistently going out one way or at least being able to predict it. My theory was I had a quarter acre is all it was, tiny. But I was like, you know what? If I could build something or make a food plot where I got at least a reason for them to come down this trail, to come out this way, that's all I need. I don't care if they're going to be like coming over to hammer it or whatever, just as long as it gives them a reason to, instead of picking all these trails over here to go that way, that they'll come down this way, grab a bite while they're getting ready to go out and go. And that was my goal. And that was exactly how a lot of these guys that don't have equipment would have built it as well, because I couldn't get a four-wheeler to it. I couldn't get any equipment to it or anything. It was all hand labor. And it was mowing down freaking bushes and everything with a weed eater, roses and all kinds of, it was thick, and we got it down to the ground. Now, the thing that I was purposely doing with that situation is I was not planting something, for instance, like a beans or a corn or something that I could plant in the spring and it grows in the fall. I wasn't doing that because I knew whatever I put in there is not enough food for it to last very long. And number two, there's just not very much room to go around to get enough of this stuff in there. So what I ended up doing was I'll just put clover in it so I could prepare it and everything, put clover in it so that it holds it till fall. And the whole reason I'm doing that is so that I can go back in with brassicas when you plant, September or August.
Late August.
What's the clover going to hold for you?
The clover is just
Keeps
keeping
weeds
it. I already
out.
got it cleared out, and that's why we planted clover the other day, because we got everything cleared out and prepped and everything on the ground. But if we don't do anything to it, all the weeds are going to grow, and then I'm going to be doing the same exact thing again in the fall. And so I got it all tore up and everything or whatever, and then got it all done, and I put clover in it. The reason I'm prefacing this or putting the focus on it is because that small of a food plot, all I want it for is the fall. I'm not trying to do anything besides get a shot. So if you're going to prep your food plot and it is going to be something that's small, you can't control them that much better. Strategically, again, this is opinion, but strategically put it somewhere where it is convenient for the deer to go, but can narrow down some options for you, and then put the right the proper food in there so that the time of year in which you're going to be sitting in that stand is what they're wanting to eat over anything else.
I think I was going to say the smallest plot that I've ever seen have a key effect was probably a quarter of an acre. And that was in the south field. And what I'm talking about is, if you remember, there was a couple of years there where we have a tree stand on the edge right there where the deer they like to cross the fence. The field itself is maybe an acre.
I just did it. It's a half acre.
Half acre.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I only had 20 yards, 30 yards planted in clover right along down the edge. And those deer came to that, and they would work that edge. You know,
it would also hold does all the time.
Right.
So you
especially when you did the sorghum.
The sorghum was in the rest of the field, and then
so is that the years you're talking where you'd put
and because then they would bed in it.
So do you think that's because of the food sources that you have there, that there's a variety? So for you guys listening, what he's basically saying is that we had a half acre field, 3/4 of it was sorghum, which is a miniature version of corn, basically, if you don't know what sorghum is, and it grows thick, and then the other part was just clover.
Just clover.
So you have short and tall. Do you think that's the difference in the terrain and how you put different food there? Because they eat the sorghum too, don't they?
Oh yeah.
But more times than not, we'd always see them bedded or laying, like all the time, laying in there.
Do you think it's pronounced sourgum?
No, it's sorghum.
Sorghum.
Is that what you've been thinking about this whole time?
Well, I mean, I was just wondering.
That's what he's been thinking about this whole time.
It's sorghum.
Anyways, I'm mainly asking, do you think the reason they're hitting that so well is because you gave them two things? You gave them cover to go hang out at, and then they could just walk over and grab a bite of clover and then go back and lay down and cover?
It could have been, because there was numerous times that we got in the stand, and then they stood up they were in the sorghum. We walked right by them. Walked within 30, 40 yards of them and had no idea that we were there, and we had no idea they were there.
I feel like that was a lot of the same does, though, that just were there all the time.
It was nice, though, because it got the bucks to check them.
Yeah, the bucks would cut that corner.
Our biggest ones there, didn't
Yeah,
like Junior
absolutely.
showed up there at some point, didn't he?
Yeah.
For sure.
Obviously, that's where I shot touch.
There's quite a few pictures of Junior there.
Yep.
Huh.
So that would be the smallest plot. So small plots can work in conjunction with others if the deer are already there. But I guess going back to what you were saying, that half acre field and a third of it being clover, if we didn't have deer already within a mile or 2 miles of us because there was some other great big food source, we're not sucking them over with that little tiny plot.
Well,
So
the nice thing about that was
lesson there would be the smaller the food plot, the more strategically it needs to be placed.
Correct.
and what you're putting in it, I think.
I agree. To me, the thing that is a huge benefit for us is if wanting to hold the deer like we do, beans, corn, I don't think you lose anything as far as those months from October and November. Those deer, I think those deer are going to be there regardless of if you have the beans or the corn or not. Even if it's just grass, I think they're going to be there because they're not as focused on, if that's where their core area is, that's where they're going to be. They're not as focused on, they don't have to go to the bean field. They don't have to go to the corn field because they're not having to deal with incremental weather that's
they're not on survival
detrimental
mode.
to them. Yes.
Yeah.
So then you get the benefit of also being able to keep them or provide food for them in December and January, maybe February if you have enough, when the weather does get really bad.
So this just hit me. First off, when we're talking brassicas, the reason I was saying, this is just so if you guys don't know about brassicas, the reason I would want those ones in the fall, number one, I always mix up the freaking words. They're an annual, not a perennial, right?
Correct.
Because you have to plant them every year. And so, and you also plant them in August or late August, as Dad was saying, because they grow it's not like they have a super long growing period.
About 40 days, I think, 45 days.
Yep. And so basically we can plant them in the fall, and then by the time you get your first frost or it starts to get colder, those deer start hammering it because it gets so much sweeter. That's what they do, right?
Well, so what we've seen here in Iowa is when you plant brassicas, which is basically radishes, turnips, squash, there's gourds type stuff, I guess. All those are classified in there. They grow a big broadleaf. that is very soft and palatable to a deer. And so they are after that right away, it seems like, and they eat on that. And then what happens when you get the first freeze, the vegetable itself that's under the ground, the sugar content increases in that, and then they crave that, and you'll actually see, and we see it all the time, where they dig up our plants
And start eating the
the bulb. You'll see them, I mean, it's humorous. It's always fun to see a volleyball-sized radish or turnip. But honestly, the tennis ball size or ping pong ball size, this is the one they seem to really like because they can get the whole thing in their mouth, and they're chewing on it, and there's leaves hanging 2 feet out of their mouth, and they're doing whatever they can to eat on it.
So that is why that is a more or a little bit better of a food plot or a source of food for them during the time you're going to be hunting, more so than like clover is early season. The greens or when they're eating during the summer and then into your fall and stuff too, once you start getting the colder weather. But I think the cool thing, now that you just said that earlier, was we'll be able to plant all of our beans and corn and everything. What we're gonna do at the sunflower field, where we got to go in August and knock some of it down in order to plant our brassicas in part of it. Not a big deal. You could do the same thing with our corn and beans so that we've got enough food there that they're hanging out throughout the summer. And then, hey, we want to have a chunk of these beans in brassicas or turnips or whatever we want to put in there. And we aren't harvesting it. We can go in there, and then we have the best of both worlds. So that a lot of farmers almost just talking out loud.
A lot of farmers do that. I mean, with their cornfields or their bean field, they'll come back and go use. I mean, when you're talking an agriculture field, a big field, they'll use it as a cover crop, but they'll cover it with some type of brassica, and it puts nitrogen back in the ground, and then now they have this humongous food plot they've harvested.
The field.
I thought it was like rye and
just broadcasting or what?
They use a plane.
You haven't seen our neighbor use a helicopter?
No, we don't have a plane. I'm just
so what would I know they do because they planted my yard that time.
Yeah. They forgot to shut it off and flew over your house.
Yeah, and I had
turnips everywhere.
All over the yard. I was like, what the frick? And there's like these 2 lines on either side of my house.
That's freaking
And then
funny.
I realized it was from the damn plane.
Right. But no, so you can go back in a cornfield, let's say, and walk that and hand crank turnips into that.
You don't have to put that, drill that in or anything.
You just broadcast a lot of that.
If you can time
it's better to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it in the ground, you're going to have a better coverage. You're having more of it grow. But, I mean, you can get quite a bit to grow, especially if you can time it with a rain that's coming or whatever and be able to get it in there. Yeah.
So I guess the whole point of this podcast was to talk about some of our history with food plots as well as what we're doing differently this year. I know this is going to have questions for guys.
Yep, a bunch.
Because the reason I want to do this one was because people have asked us about food plots. So I know you guys are going to ask us this, that, and the other.
I'd say to summarize our goal this year, it's to try to hold more deer instead of just having some. Yeah,
I want to see more numbers of deer, and the other thing I would like to see is our when shed season hits, we get some more of larger numbers of deer hanging out in there.
Yeah,
versus just hoping that some of ours stay around.
I think it will help a lot.
Yeah.
But we're like, what we have not covered, and maybe we'll do it again in a different podcast, but we can answer those questions, is planting depths. When exactly are we planting? What are we planting when? Different things like that. What are we using as far as equipment? Because we use a little bit of everything. I mean,
we've done it with nothing, and we've done it with a tractor.
Yeah. So, it just depends on what guys are looking for, how big you want to go or how small you want to go.
I agree.
But I guess my point would be food plots have been effective for me. I've killed a lot of deer in my food plots. And honestly, I probably don't even hunt them as much as some people do. I hunt close to them.
I also don't think that, in my opinion, that we've necessarily set them up the best we could to hunt them specifically.
Correct.
I think we've always kind of had them there for the purpose of what they serve, and then we hunt off of them somewhere nearby.
I'm trying to think if I've ever killed a buck.
I've only killed
food plot.
I can think of only 2 off the top of my head that touch, and then the Northfield deer that
which touch wasn't really coming to the
Well, he was coming to
He was
Antlers.
yeah.
But he was also coming I mean, I'm just giving it credit for
But
being
he was
on a
in the
food
food
plot.
plot, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying. I don't think I've killed any on a food plot.
Well, if you like the Big 8 came right out of the food plot.
Yep.
Splits was on the edge of the food plot. I don't know whether you'd want to count that. I don't need to count that. I will say the wide 10 walking up, he came out of the food plot walking between when I had the other food plot. The straight up was in the food plot. Juice was just off of the food plot.
You could almost account 2 or 3 years to the same thing.
Ooh.
Bully.
No,
Well, your Warren stand really was right in the heart of where all of our food plots were. That they're
It was
going
in the
back
timber,
and forth.
though.
Yeah, so was Juice. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
Juice
that
was
those
way closer to the edge.
they definitely weren't on the food plot or anything, but you could argue that they were
And-
checking in between, going in and out, going to different food sources and stuff when you got your shots.
I don't know. He's got a lot that I would definitely say are food plot.
Yeah.
Juice, the first shot, too, he had to have gone right through the food plot like 30 seconds before.
Yep.
So.
Well, we'll see. We'll keep you guys updated. If you are wanting some more informational on this, we're doing a series right now called Plot For Dummies. We've been teaching Warren the food plot. So on our YouTube, not the Raised Hunting Podcast YouTube, the Raised Hunting channel. You want to go check that one out.
All right.
Okay.
You ready? Are we ready for the wacky fact of today?
Yes.
Lay it on us. He's all excited. He must have a good one.
Because I know my people, and they will enjoy this one.
Oh, it must be about a turd.
Skipper caterpillars
Have
can
the
shoot their poop pellets up to 1.5 meters into the air, which would be equivalent to a human throwing it 75 meters.
What kind of caterpillar?
A skipper caterpillar.
What do they look like?
I don't know. I don't have a picture right here. Scientists believe they do this to attract wasps away from their droppings. Guanacos in South America use group latrines on the edge of their territory with some piles measuring over 6 feet across, which guanacos look like basically a llama or an alpaca. I guess if that's a skipper caterpillar.
Skipper caterpillar.
Here's another reason why dogs are better than cats. Dogs produce about 30,000 tons of waste each day, while cats produce 1.2 million tons each year. Oh, wait, why would they do that?
One's
A
in a
year's
year,
in a
one's a
day?
day.
Yeah, why did they do that?
So you were trying to say that the cats are out pooping the dogs?
Yeah, that didn't make much sense.
I don't know why they did that.
Uh-oh, Warren.
Here's another goofy one. Lemurs. Lemurs are coprophagous. Coprophagous.
That didn't sound any better.
I don't know how to. It's COPROPHAGOUS. It's coprophagous. It's got to be what it is.
Okay. What's that mean?
I think. Meaning they eat their own poop to ensure they get all the nutrients from it.
That's nasty.
That is disgusting.
I need to come up with rules. What am I putting yes for? Because no, I didn't know that, and that's kind of interesting and disgusting. But
It's
that's
wacky.
disgusting, so that's an X. But
It's wacky, though.
I'll give you that. Don't look at me like that.
What's his name? King Julian ain't all that cute anymore. Little
he a lemur?
freaking turd licking
He's the one
sucker.
from
yeah,
the
in
Lion
Madagascar.
King. Madagascar Lion King.
What?
The one that falls in with the shark. Or is that Mort?
Here, see, this is
In the lava. The shark was
that's
living in the lava.
that's him.
That's a lemur. That's a poop eater.
Well, that's King Julian.
Okay.
He's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, he's a turd eater though. Apparently,
I'm sure there's probably references in that movie, I bet, if you went and watched it looking for that. Yeah.
it's gross.
You lemur.
All right.
Oh, no.
Lemur liquor. All right. We are going to get out of here because we've gone to the dark side again. So Thanks for tuning in to the Raised Hunting Podcast. We appreciate you guys. Send in your comments, your photos, tell your stories. We got some new ones that Easton's going to have to be adding. We're going to have to figure out where you're going to put them. You have to
Not
start
on there.
Yeah, you have to start another board. So, all right, appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you later.